Is Apple finally losing its mind? Or is this actually the smartest chess move they have made in a decade? We need to talk about a phone launching in 2026, the iPhone 17e, that costs nearly $700 and still, unbelievably, comes with a 60 Hz display. In a world where budget Android phones have had 120 Hz screens for half the price for years, that spec sheet sounds like an insult. It sounds like Apple is laughing at us. It sounds like corporate greed at its absolute worst. But I need you to stop looking at the spec sheet for just 1 second. If you look at what this phone actually does and who it is actually for, the story changes completely because leaks from the supply chain are painting a very different picture than what you see on Twitter. They aren't building this phone for the tech enthusiasts who argue in comment sections about refresh rates. They are building it for the silent majority, the millions of people who just want a phone that works and keeps working for 5 or 6 years. This isn't just a cheap iPhone. With the rumored specs we are seeing, specifically a massive RAM upgrade and the A19 chip, this might be the most powerful sleeper phone of the entire generation. Today, we are going deep into the iPhone 17e to answer the only question that matters. Is this the ultimate ripoff, or is it actually the best value flagship of 2026? Let's get the controversy out of the way immediately because we have to talk about the screen. It is the single biggest reason people are angry online, and frankly, I get it. Reports confirm the iPhone 17e is sticking with a classic 60 Hz OLED panel. I know, I hear you screaming at your screen right now. It is 2026. My toaster has a higher refresh rate than this phone. And you are right. On paper, it is absolutely indefensible to charge nearly $700 for a 60 Hz screen when the Samsung Galaxy S26 and the Pixel lineup moved past this years ago. It feels lazy. It feels like they're holding back technology just to force you to buy the Pro model. But here is the brutal truth about Apple's strategy that tech reviewers often forget. Apple knows their audience better than we do. The target buyer for this phone is not coming from an iPhone 15 Pro or a Galaxy S25 Ultra. They're coming from an iPhone 11, an iPhone 12, or maybe an older SE. They have never used promotion. They don't scroll through menus looking for jitter or frame drops. They look at color, contrast, and brightness. And in those areas, this OLED panel is going to be stunning. Apple is betting that you care more about battery life and color accuracy than you care about the smoothness of scrolling a menu. But if you look closer, the real story of this display isn't the refresh rate at all. The real story is the death of the notch. Finally, the budget iPhone looks like a modern iPhone. The iPhone 17e is ditching that old, tired, tub-notch design and finally adopting the dynamic island. This is psychological marketing at its finest. When you pull this phone out of your pocket in public, it doesn't look like you bought the cheap one anymore. It looks like an iPhone 17. It looks premium. That dynamic island integration means you get all the live activities that the Pro users have enjoyed for years. Your Uber rides, your kitchen timers, your music controls, and your sports scores will be bouncing around the top of your interface. It unifies the experience across the entire lineup. So, while the tech nerds cry about the refresh rate, regular people are going to see a phone that looks identical to the $1,000 flagship from the front, and that single design choice is going to help sell millions of units. Now, if the display is the controversy, the performance is the apology. This is where the leaks get genuinely exciting and where the value proposition starts to make sense. We are expecting the iPhone 17e to launch with the A19 chip. Notice that I didn't say the A18, and I didn't say a rebranded A17 Pro. I said the A19, the actual next-generation silicon. That is absurd power for this price bracket. We're talking about a mobile chip that likely benchmarks higher than many thin and light laptops currently on the market. But the real headline, the detail that should make your jaw drop, is the memory. Leaks are pointing to a massive 12 gigabytes of RAM. For context, the base model iPhones stuck to 6 and 8 gigabytes for years. Jumping to 12 gigabytes on the E model, the budget model, is not just a small upgrade. It is a massive statement. Why would Apple do this? Why would they put that much expensive memory in their cheapest phone? 2 words, Apple Intelligence. We know AI is hungry. It eats RAM for breakfast. By giving the iPhone 17e this much memory, Apple is future-proofing it for the next half-decade of AI features. This phone will be able to run complex on-device language models, generate images, and handle real-time translation without breaking sweat. This is the difference between a phone that feels slow in 2 years and a phone that feels fast in 5 years. Most mid-range Android phones do the exact opposite. They give you a fancy 120Hz screen to make the phone feel fast in the store, but they cut corners on the processor or the RAM. Apple is doing the inverse. They're giving you a boring screen, but they are putting a Ferrari engine underneath it. This means you can edit 4K ProRes video, you can play AAA console-quality games, and you can multitask like a pro user. If you value longevity, if you're the kind of person who buys a phone and keeps it until it literally falls apart, this spec sheet is a love letter to you. Let's talk about the camera because this is another area where Apple is taking a massive gamble. The rumors suggest a single camera system, just one lens on the back. In a world of triple and quad camera setups, where even cheap phones have 3 lenses, this feels like a massive step backward. But is it really? Think about how you actually use your phone. Apple is leaning entirely on the A19 chip's computational photography. They are betting that one incredible 48-megapixel sensor is better than 3 mediocre ones. With the power of the A19, that single lens can act like 2. It can crop in for a lossless 2x zoom that looks optical. It can handle portrait mode with perfect depth mapping using machine learning. It can do night mode, deep fusion, and smart HDR. The truth is, most people rarely use their ultra-wide lens, and the cheap macro lenses on budget phones are usually garbage anyway. By focusing the entire budget on one high-quality main sensor, Apple ensures that 99% of the photos you take, your kids, your pets, your food, your vacations, look flagship quality. It is a philosophy of quality over quantity. Design-wise, we're looking at a refinement of the classic aluminum and glass sandwich. It is clean, it is durable, and it fits perfectly in the ecosystem. You get MagSafe, which is non-negotiable in 2026. You get Face ID. You get the seamless integration with AirDrop, iMessage, and iCloud that keeps people locked into the walled garden. And that brings us to the price. The leaks are suggesting a range between $649 to $699. That is a hike from the old rumored pricing, and it pushes this phone dangerously close to the standard iPhone 17 pricing territory. But you have to look at the inflation of the market. Flagships are now, well, over $1,000. Getting the A19 chip and 12 gigs of RAM for under $700 is mathematically a steal. You are paying for the engine, not the body kit. So, who is this phone actually for? It is not for the person watching this video on an iPhone 15 Pro Max. It is not for the tech enthusiast who needs the latest gadget. It is for your dad who is still using an iPhone XR with a cracked screen. It is for the student who needs a phone to last through all 4 years of college without slowing down. It is for the corporate fleets that need reliable, secure devices. It is the Toyota Camry of smartphones. It isn't flashy. It won't turn heads at a tech convention, but it will run forever. It will never let you down, and it holds its value better than anything else on the road. Apple isn't trying to win the spec war. They're trying to win the reliability war. They know that in 3 years, that cheap Android phone with a 120Hz screen might have stopped getting updates, while the iPhone 17e will be running iOS 30 smoothly, still editing video, and still feeling premium. When the iPhone 17e launches in late February, the reviews are going to be mixed. I can already see the headlines. Tech YouTubers will hate the display. They will mock the single camera. They will call it a scam. But then the sales numbers will come out, and this thing is going to be a bestseller. It represents the maturity of the smartphone market. We're done with gimmicks. We want battery. We want speed. And we want a phone that doesn't become e-waste in 18 months. The iPhone 17e is Apple planting a flag in the ground and saying this is what a good phone actually needs. It is confident. It is controversial. And it is quintessentially Apple. If you care about AI power, long-term performance, and a premium Apple experience in a clean, modern design, this phone makes a lot of sense. It is classic Apple. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to stay ahead of the curve on all things tech, make sure to subscribe, share the video with a friend who is still holding on to that cracked iPhone 11, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.